You know the feeling, right? You set up this perfect bird feeder, you fill it with that good seed, and you're all set for a nice, peaceful morning of bird watching. But then they show up, the uninvited guests. We are talking about starlings, of course, and if you're tired of them, well, you've come to the right place. We're about to walk through a complete guide to outsmart them and finally take back your feeder.
Does this look painfully familiar? You were hoping for cardinals, chickadees, maybe some finches, but instead your backyard has turned into the most popular and definitely the loudest starling diner in the entire neighborhood. Trust me, you are not alone in this frustration, not by a long shot. It really is a feathered frenzy. They don't just show up, they descend in these huge, noisy flocks, chase away all the other little birds, and just drain the feeders in what feels like minutes. It can be so disheartening. But, and this is the important part, there are solutions.
So, here's our battle plan. First, we'll get a handle on the invasion and really understand why starlings are such bullies. Then, we'll dive straight into the actionable stuff, from picking the right feeders to serving up the right seeds. We'll even cover some advanced strategies before we pull it all together into your winning game plan. It almost always starts with just one or two birds, right? But then it escalates and fast into a full-on invasion. And this isn't just about losing birdseed, it's about losing that peaceful, quiet experience you were trying to create in the first place. Understanding this dynamic is really the first step to fixing it.
All right, to win this battle, you've got to know your opponent. Starlings are, well, they're uniquely equipped to completely take over a bird feeder, and understanding their specific traits is the absolute key to fighting back effectively. You see, it's how all their traits work together that makes them so tough. They're aggressive, so they have no problem chasing other birds away. They're super social, so when one finds your feeder, you better believe the whole gang gets the memo. Throw in the fact that they're persistent, they're adaptable, and you've got a real challenge on your hands.
And look, this isn't just our frustration talking. The Cornell Lab of Ornithology, the experts, they confirm it. The real problem here is that they show up in these huge numbers and they literally push out the very birds we're trying to attract. That displacement, that's what we need to put a stop to.
So let's talk solutions. Our first line of defense is all about the hardware. By choosing the right kind of feeder, you can literally create a physical barrier that starlings just can't beat, while still rolling out the welcome mat for the smaller songbirds.
Here are three of your absolute best options. Weight-activated feeders are just ingenious. A heavier starling lands and bam, the feeding port shuts. Caged feeders use a simple wire barrier, and that 1.5-inch spacing is the key detail. And my personal favorite, upside-down suet feeders. They play to the strengths of woodpeckers and nuthatches who are natural climbers. But starlings, they just can't manage to feed that way.
Okay, strategy number 2 is to use the starling's own preferences against them. We're going to change the menu to something they find totally disgusting. We're going to turn your feeder from a starling magnet into a starling repellent.
Okay, look at the left. That's the stuff starlings love. Cheap mixes loaded with corn and millet. It's basically a giant neon sign for a free-for-all buffet. Now, look to the right. Those are your secret weapons: safflower seed and nyjer seed.
So how effective is this, really? Well, in one test, just switching a feeder to pure safflower seed led to an 80% drop in starling visits. And get this, that was within a single week. 80%! That is a massive, massive impact from one simple change.
And the experts at Wild Birds Unlimited totally back this up. Safflower is pretty much the perfect solution, because the birds you want to see, like cardinals and finches, they actually enjoy it. But the bullies, like starlings and grackles, they find it bitter and gross. They'll just move on to find an easier meal somewhere else.
So, you've got the right feeder, and you've swapped out the seed. But what if the starlings are just ridiculously persistent? Okay, it's time to take your defense to the next level with some more advanced tactics.
Think of this as your advanced toolkit. Starlings are creatures of habit, so even just changing your feeding time can throw them off. For a really hard reset, you can try the empty feeder strategy. Just take it down for a week to break their cycle. Even simple physical changes, like using shorter perches they can't balance on, can make a huge difference. Now here's a big picture strategy you might not have thought about. Starlings absolutely love huge open lawns where they can wander around foraging for insects. By breaking up that big expansive turf, maybe adding more shrubs or garden beds, you're making your entire yard a less appealing place for them to hang out.
And for a truly next-level kind of wild strategy, how about encouraging their natural predators? Seriously, hawks and falcons see a flock of starlings as a flying buffet. This quote explains that by just adding a simple perch, you can invite nature's own security force to help balance things out in your yard. It's a bold move, but it can be surprisingly effective.
We've covered a ton of ground here, so now let's pull all these tactics together into one single cohesive game plan. This is how you're going to get lasting success and finally create that peaceful backyard you've been dreaming of.
I'm going to say this again because it's the most important takeaway. There is no single silver bullet here. The absolute key to outsmarting a creature as clever and adaptable as a starling is a layered defense. You have to combine multiple strategies to make your feeding station just too much of a hassle for them.
Here it is, your 4-step action plan. Number 1, start with the hardware. Get a resistant feeder. 2, switch the menu to something they hate, like safflower. 3, strategize about where you put the feeder and when you fill it. And finally, number 4, adapt. Pay attention to what's working, and don't be afraid to add new deterrents as you go.
Now, I have to mention this because it is the #1 reason people fail. They give up too quickly. Starlings are going to test your new setup. They are absolutely persistent. They'll fly by, check it out for a few days, try to find a weakness. You have to be just as persistent as they are.
And to make sure you succeed, please avoid these common pitfalls. Don't rely on just one trick. Make sure you clean up any spilled seed under your feeders, because that's just an open invitation for them to party on the ground. And whatever you do, stop scattering bread or cheap seed mix on the lawn. You're basically just rolling out the red carpet for them.
Ultimately, here's what it all comes down to. Your goal is to downgrade your yard from a 5-star all-you-can-eat buffet to a really difficult, unappealing little restaurant with a terrible menu. Once you do that, the starlings, being the opportunists they are, will simply move on and find an easier place to eat.
With this layered defense plan, you are now fully equipped to take back your feeders. You have the knowledge, you have the strategies. So the only question left is, are you ready to finally turn your backyard into that peaceful bird sanctuary you've always wanted?